This is Needy and Normal. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After years of experience and learning from my own life, one thing is clear: meeting your needs is essential for living a better life. No, you're not needy. Having needs is normal, and your needs matter. Welcome back to Needy and Normal. If you're here for the first time, welcome, welcome. If you are back, I know you pushed play for a lot of good reasons, so be very proud of yourself. I am so excited to welcome a friend, a past client, someone I think very highly of, to come in and chat with us today. So please enjoy this conversation with my friend Tracey. Hi, Tracey.
Hi, I'm glad
Thank
to
you
be
for
here.
coming.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for saying yes. You knew probably from the minute I asked you that I was going to poke at you and ask you all kinds of fun questions, but so thanks for sitting in that seat.
No problem.
Let's start by talking a little bit about how you and I connected and found each other. It's been a little while now, so
Yeah.
let's go from your point of view.
Yeah, so what has it been? 3 years, I think. I was honestly, I was fangirling with Sophia Minnaert. And I was
Oh
watching,
yeah.
you remember that? I think I told you about that. I was watching I think you had her on as a guest. And I was following her on Instagram and I saw that she was doing this podcast, I believe it was at the time. Um, and so I watched it. I tuned in, and um, as soon as I heard your voice and listened to you for a little bit, I thought, okay, I need to contact this girl because at that point I was just not in a good place with my life, and you were so energetic and happy, and I loved it. I loved every part of that vibe. So that was the first time I came in contact with you. And then it was a little bit after that when I thought, okay, I am going to do this. And then I
Mhm.
finally contacted you, I think by email, and then it started from there.
Yeah, it did. And you were brand new to coaching.
Yes.
So,
Hmm.
not that it took a little convincing from me, but it took a little convincing from you. So, I was so excited when you came around because that was so brave. I think that's been a theme in this long run that we've known each other and worked together is how brave and capable you are. I always tell you that, and how, yeah, just stepping up and realizing like let's do something different. That's not easy for a lot of people, and you did that. So,
Yeah.
let's go back to that time when you said, you weren't in the greatest spot, and then you called me. So that was what was the turning point before you decided let's do this? What was going on?
Yeah. So I had been in an unhappy marriage. It wasn't healthy. Um, it was abusive verbally and physically for a number of years, way too many. And I knew I needed to get out of this marriage, but um, it was scary to say the least. And there were a number of years of abuse. Like I said, he would go through cycles, and so there were low times, but then he was later diagnosed with bipolar. So there were the low times, and then it would escalate, escalate, escalate until he blew up, and you never knew what was going to happen when he hit that point. After that came the apologies, and I'm so sorry, I need to get help. I know something's wrong with me. And then, that would kind of level us out a little bit. And I think, okay, he's serious about this. So this, he wants to get out. So this went on for years. And I began to realize that this was a pattern that wasn't going to stop. And uh, it just kept getting harder and harder to leave because I didn't know what he would do when he was at that stage. So I didn't think it was safe to leave. Um, until a little bit before I contacted you. He had gotten diagnosed with bipolar and was on medication, which had kind of leveled him out, but to the point where he was non-existent basically in our relationship. So in fact, sometimes he would just sit in front of the TV with the volume off and just stare at the TV. So I thought, okay, you got to be careful what you ask for sometimes
Mhm.
because, it was better obviously than what it was, but this was not a relationship that I was getting fulfilled by. So I knew, I just knew that this was, nothing was going to help this situation and that I just needed to do something for myself. Needing to do that and actually doing it are two very different things because I thought about it all the time. My kids were supportive of me because they knew, obviously, they went through all the things with me. So they kept telling me, I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be happy. And I said, I know, but I think I can put up with this for a little while longer. Everything's so stable. We have a house that's paid off, and he's usually not a bother because he'll go to bed at, 8 p.m. and I have the night to myself. And so I talk myself out of it over and over again. It's not that bad, it's not that bad. I'm by myself. That's the way it is. But something clicked, like I said, when I heard you speaking that day, and I thought, I can be like that. I want to be like that. I want to stand up for myself and do something for me, but I can't do it alone. So, so that's why I contacted you in the first place, just to kind of help me through that, give me a boost and confidence, and hopefully get to my goals of doing something for myself. So,
Mhm. Mhm. It's so big. It's so brave just to have that conversation internally with yourself,
yeah.
weighing the odds. And I could hear you just remembering it and explaining the story of that struggle between fear and guilt. Like you went from all these years of being fearful and fearful to make a change and leave to, well, he's not really doing anything now. So, and I remember us talking about if I leave, then everything's fine. And that struggle between being grateful, like this is like you were saying, like, this is stable. Everything seems fine right now, so I should be grateful. And if I leave, then I feel bad. And so I remember that being a
Right.
big stuck factor. That was one thing that kept holding you back. And if you don't mind, I remember when you finally went to your kids, your adult children, and you
Yeah.
said, "Here's where I'm at. Here's what I think I need to do, and I just need you guys to know what's going on." Do you remember when you sat down with them and had that conversation? I remember you sharing this with me and how
Mhm.
profound that was.
I do remember just how supportive they were of me. I don't remember a specific conversation, but every time I talked to them about it, my oldest daughter, for sure, um, she had told me, I married my best friend, Mom. I want you to have that same love in your life and same relationship.
Mhm.
So, she said, that's all I want for you is to be happy. And I can see you're not happy right now. So it was just so huge for me to hear that from her.
Mhm.
Um, and and then of course my other kids agreed, but that was really big for me when my oldest daughter said that to me. And then I started thinking, yeah, I could actually marry somebody or have a relationship with somebody potentially that makes me happy and not feel miserable all the time.
Mhm.
So, although my ultimate goal was not to marry somebody immediately, but I just in the back of my mind, I'm thinking there are better relationships out there, you know, to be
Mhm.
had potentially. So it
Mhm.
really got me thinking about the rest of my life. And it was just a huge thing for me to have that support from my kids. I didn't mention that I had been married for 25 years at the time when this was going on. Um, at least 25 years, I think, is when things started going from bad to worse. But I had been married to him for 30 years, I think, by the time I contacted you, 30 plus.
Mhm.
So it was a big thing. I mean, I didn't know anything else. I married him when I was 19. We were high school sweethearts. And
Mm, those air
so,
quotes that just happened over there.
yeah, air quotes. We were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
And so it was, you know, the only thing I knew as
Hmm.
an adult. So for me to make that decision to walk away, I thought, I don't even know how to live with by myself. What do I do? I was, uh, I worked basically, he had a very good job. And so I was basically working for spending money, to be honest. So I thought, what am I going to do if I leave? I don't have a job really to support myself, don't have a place to go. So all these things were factors in why I took so long to finally make up my mind, because there were a lot of unknowns that were very scary.
Which makes sense. That's so much change to consider. It's not just one thing, it's a lot of things. And I remember us talking about, what has to happen first? Well, it was that internal conversation with yourself that things can be different. And then it was taking those little micro baby steps to really start inching your way out of this life, which you said was all you knew. And I think people don't realize how common this is when you're so young, which is why, parents are like, don't get married so young,
Mhm.
so but it happens. You get really immersed in the world that you've created for yourself and you're raising children and you think, okay, this is it. This is my life. And then that turning point where you realize it doesn't have to be, and
Yeah.
you start having those conversations with yourself, the permissions. And I remember permission was a really big theme for
Mhm.
us in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, even um there were other things at play too. Not to belabor this, but I was I took my vows seriously when we got married, and um my father also told me, because we were high school sweethearts, he said, "You know it's never going to work, right? It's never going to work. You'll never stay with him." So, and I am a competitive person by by nature.
Mm-hmm.
I am. And when somebody tells me that I can't do something, it bothers me. So I thought, nope, I'm going to see this through. And, I'm not going to be one of those statistics. High school sweethearts, hearts that married, they never last. That's not going to be me. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a little bit of that going on too, because I did not want to lose this battle. But, there comes a point when you actually have to look out for yourself and your own happiness. So, yeah, that's that's what ended up happening, but it took a lot to get there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it does. It takes times and lots of convincing. And I actually remember one of like the moments where you kind of had to switch your mindset from quitting or calling it a failed marriage to making a change. You remember
Yes,
that?
yes,
You
I
had
do.
to really get your mind because you are competitive and
Yep.
we're going to talk about that more, but
Yeah.
that stubbornness doesn't have to uh, send you in the wrong direction and you can just
Yes.
switch it with that perspective.
That was one of the first mindset um uh can't think of the word, benefits that you showed me. That was like the first thing you showed me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't need to think of it that way, as a loss or a failure. I just had to switch my mindset a little bit. So yeah, that was the beginning of the long, helpful relationship that we had after that, moving forward.
Yeah, and we walked through every step together. I
Mhm.
remember when you went to finally file and the decisions
Mhm.
that had to be made. And
Yeah.
I remember you calling or texting. Oh my God, I did it. Holy shit, it happened.
Yes,
I
I
did
know.
it, like the disbelief of it. Let's go back a little. I'm getting ahead. The
Yeah.
moment that you finally sat down with him and said, do you remember how scared you were for that
That
conversation?
was the scariest thing I ever did. And oh, yes, that was
Tell me
scary.
more.
That was huge. Oh, yeah. I get anxious just thinking about it. But yeah, the conversations I had with you were always, you can do this. And when are you going to do this? And I'm like, what? What do you mean, when am I going to do this? No, back up. Let's slow down a little bit. And, you know, at the time I was panicky. Like, what do you mean pick a date? I can't do that. But looking back, that's exactly what I needed because I had how many years of, well, it's okay now. I'll do it in a little bit. I'll do it later after this blows over or that. And so you made me pick a date. And I didn't like you at the minute, at the moment. But I said, okay, okay, okay. I remember this distinctly. I said, July 4th is coming up and I'm having my family here. And so I don't want this, big drama happening when I just invited everybody over, all my kids
Hmm.
and yeah, group of people. So, and you said, okay, then we pick after July 4th weekend. So I think I ended up picking like July 7th or something like that, 8th, somewhere in there. And as that day got closer, I'm like, oh my God, slow down, it's getting closer. But um it just helps so much to have that. I respond very well to having somebody tell me this is what you're going to do. You're going to do it right here, right now. So having that date on the calendar was key for me. It was just absolutely key for me. So when that day came, I'm like, this is the date I picked. Ashley's going to be waiting to hear from me. And, I knew it was a safe moment at that time. I knew that he wasn't going to blow up or anything like that. So I'm like, what am I waiting for? So we did sit down that day, and it ended up being better than I expected. I think he was expecting it.
Hmm.
So I got all worked up, and it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I just felt this huge sense of relief on many levels. But so that was the beginning of the start of the transition for me. So that day I remember so distinctly. So yeah, that was huge. And just getting to that point, there is no way I could have done that without you because that date would have kept pushing out, pushing out, pushing out, and I'd still be here thinking about it, to be honest. So it
Oh,
was
you think so?
so huge. Yeah, I honestly do.
Wow.
That just picking that date was so huge for me.
Hmm.
So yeah, I can't thank you enough for that.
Hey, you did the work. You actually conjured up the energy and the motivation to be brave enough to do that with him. And I remember you saying, like, I feel safe. I remember you mentioning you weren't afraid of him per se
Yeah.
anymore in a physical way. And, that kind of lent itself over time and how the circumstances played out. But I do remember how massive that was for you. And
Yes.
then you didn't stop. I think that was the
Mhm.
coolest part is like you could have just said, I want a divorce and then dragged your heels more, but you didn't. It was
Mhm.
like, game on. I'm
Yeah.
ready for a new, better life. And you kept
Yeah.
owning that feeling and that desire more and more every time we talked.
Hmm.
I know that there's a part of who you are that plays a role in this with, your dedication to weightlifting. So
Hmm.
when did that come into play? And how did that kind of carry you through? Because this was happening, you were competing. Talk about competitiveness. I knew this was going to come up, but I remember that being such a big part of staying strong and learning how to find control for yourself. And then you carried that through the divorce.
Yeah.
And you and I talked many times about the meets that you had done and the mindsets around that. Take us through this time and how the lifting played its course and played its role.
Yeah. Yeah. So during the times when he was uh, um, abusing me, when he was at that point where he was verbally abusing me regularly, I heard a lot of, "You're too stupid for that. You couldn't even get a job at McDonald's." Nothing against people that work at McDonald's. But I had a degree. I mean, no, at that point I didn't, honestly. And I think that's why he said that. It was at a point where he was telling me I was stupid, I was fat, I was lazy, all of these things, just just to have control over me. And there was some point, something that clicked, and I thought, you know what? I am not lazy. I might be a little overweight, yes, but um, I can do something about that. So and I'm not stupid. So I ended up going back to a technical college and getting a 2-year degree there, just so I could say, see, I'm not too stupid. I ended up being an outstanding graduate in my field, which, I just wanted that. Like, see this? And then the other thing was getting in shape. I was one that I was like a couch sitter, basically. I was eating my feelings. And I decided that I didn't like that life anymore. So I started taking in some classes. I did Zumba class. And at one of the Zumba classes, I met someone that lifted weights. She agreed to shadow me in the gym. I said, I'm really interested in learning how to lift weights, but I'm afraid of the gym. So she took me in there and showed me the machines and kind of guided me. And pretty soon I was doing it myself. And the gym owner said, Hey, you're kind of strong. Do you ever think of competing? And I said, no, not really, but I could try it. So I did my first push pull meet, which means it's just bench press and deadlift. And I did well. It wasn't a big meet, but I got a medal. And I thought, now this is cool. I like this because I am competitive by nature. So I'm like, yeah, I like this. So I hired a coach for powerlifting. And that's kind of where it started for me. I started doing full meets, which was means squat, bench press, and deadlift. You do all three in a meet, and I started doing that, and I ended up qualifying for nationals my second year into training. And I've competed at nationals now, I think 5 or 6 times, something like that. I have a number of Wisconsin state records, so I think that's pretty cool.
Yes.
And so it just kind of snowballed from there. Um and again, I could say, see, I'm not weak. I'm strong. So, that was huge to me. My training was something I could focus on and I could control. And then from that became nutrition goals because my sport is a weight dominated sport. I have to make a certain weight class. So I started watching what I ate and I got leaner and you couldn't tell me I was fat anymore. So all of these things were in my control. I could do this for myself. My time in the gym was precious to me. I would spend 2 hours probably training, and I had the time to do it, and I loved doing it. It made me feel strong. It made me feel in control. So that kind of became my life at that point. It gave me something to focus on other than how rotten my my marriage was, I guess. So I just took it and ran. So yeah, that's how my lifting kind of it played a big role in my life actually, and just helped me get through a lot of hard things.
Well,
So
and built your confidence and your
yeah,
strength and your
yeah.
knowing what you were capable of
Mhm.
when you were in control.
Right.
That
Yeah.
became quite the theme. Talk about mindset. You started making use of your confidence in the gym
Mhm.
and using that confidence in life. I remember that was kind of that like
Yeah.
connector for you when you were trying to be more in control and
Mhm.
more confident outside
Yeah.
of the gym.
Right. I used to be very, very shy and quiet. I think I got that from my mother. Love my mother. She is the best person in the world. But almost too nice because then people take advantage. And, I didn't like to stand out. I didn't like to be the focus of anything. And the more confidence I got lifting weights, the more I accepted that and I felt more comfortable, um, you know, s- um, in social situations, I guess. So, that was a huge confidence builder for me, and it just helped me in so many different ways. But you know what's funny is that I had all this strength and confidence and power and control when I was in the gym. But as soon as I left the gym, not so much. Like, I mean, it helped me, yes, in a lot of ways in my life. I felt my confidence raising and increasing in many different ways. But what I meant by that was with my marriage, it was gone. Like I couldn't break that. I couldn't break through to stand up for myself in that situation. And so enter Ashley because I just couldn't get over that hump to do this for me. So,
Well, you were in it. It's when you're right up against your life, nose to nose, like
yeah,
it's it's hard to zoom back and try and look at it differently and handle it differently. And it had been a certain way for so long, and breaking those patterns and breaking that cycle took way more mental
yes.
working out and relearning and new pattern building, and that is not easy work. You worked
Mm,
so hard to get yourself mentally in a place where you felt strong enough and confident enough, and the feeling weak and feeling bad and feeling like you're not in control, like those were all the negative things that weren't serving you anymore.
right.
And it takes time, so you just doing even half the things that you've done. I mean, we haven't even talked about, the next parts when after that conversation with your ex-husband about this is it, we're done, the gas pedal was pushed. And not to like speed you through that part, but you took yourself through things you didn't know how to do, things that you didn't quite understand. You had to advocate for yourself. You were so patient. I know that your divorce was quite the journey, but
Yeah.
kind of bring us through to when it was final.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I know it's a
Yeah.
long story, but like give us like the
Yeah.
highlights, the peaks that really kept you moving forward.
Um, yeah. Yeah, where to start? I don't want to take up too much time, but um, so yeah, I ended up moving in with my mom when I left my ex-husband. I moved in with my mom. She she took me in for 3 months while I looked for a job and a place to live. So I ended up finding a personal training job that I am still working at. And I found an apartment and got, a little bit settled there. So that was good. Um, I felt like I was on my way. The divorce lasted way longer than it should have. It was probably about 2 years, I think, almost 2 years. And part of that was because of a lawyer switch. My lawyer was not doing what I thought was a good job. And um, talking about confidence and advocating for myself, I have been learning to do that.
Mhm.
I decided that, I mean, we were at the final divorce hearing. We were at the final divorce hearing, and I had bad feelings about what she was presenting for me. But I'm like, well, here, I did too much work had gone into this. There were so many delays, and we're finally here at the final divorce hearing. But it still didn't seem right to me. And at that point, the judge spoke up and said, this doesn't seem right. Thank goodness, because I would have been so terrible off, I guess. That's not the right way to say it, but it wouldn't have been a good situation. Anyway, long story short, I ended up firing her and getting a new lawyer who told me that the first lawyer would have had me back in court right
Mm.
away because things my ex-husband owned a business, and there were a lot of business parts of it that she didn't know what to do, the previous lawyer. So anyway, I finally got up the nerve to fire her and hire someone else, and it worked out in my favor. So I mean, these things just seem like they're happening for me. If you just have to say something, you don't
Mhm.
feel right, you just have to say something. And so I'm learning that many times now, over and over, that, no one's there looking out for you. As I was growing up as a kid, I kept thinking, well, somebody's going to take care of me. Somebody will fix it. And now, as a 50 plus year old person, I'm finally learning that you need to advocate for yourself. And so I've been doing that since I met you, Ashley. I've been getting better and better at it. And now I'm divorced and bought a house. I'm living happily right now in a nice house in the country. And I remember one of our sessions, you told me to think about a happy place, or like, where do you imagine yourself if you weren't here in your, unhappy marriage? Where would you like to be? And so I sat and thought about that. And I thought, sitting out on a deck, kind of in the woods, overlooking nature and hearing the birds singing and seeing animals and stuff like that. And here I am. Here I
Mhm.
am. That's what I have. So, um, you just gotta want it, right?
Yeah, I gotta want
You gotta work for it. So,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
I
I
don't know
mean,
if that really answered your question.
it did though, because I know it's hard to go back and tell the whole story, with all the details. So, I mean, you hit the parts that taught you something that
Mhm.
you got through and you received the outcome that you wanted. And I love that you brought back the vision of where I
Yeah.
would be if I wasn't here,
Yeah.
and the confidence that grew and standing up for yourself and the things that you felt like you couldn't do for so long, you
Yeah.
learned how to do over the
Mhm.
course of time and knew that those were your options. I remember sometimes you just didn't think, can I do that? Am I allowed to
Right.
say something? Is that okay?
Hmm.
So, and you
And not settling.
and
Not
not
settling.
settling, yeah, and saying, I deserve more and I want more for my life, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And that
Yes.
permission, right, to give to yourself.
Yeah.
I did not like how my life looked. I wanted it to look different and differently. And so often we get stuck in the uncomfortableness because we forget that we have other options and we can make different choices and that it's okay to want better for ourselves. And
Exactly.
you were walking truth of how that can play out. And so, yeah, I mean,
You
you
just have to
absolutely,
believe it.
yeah,
Hmm.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
you do.
You
And
do.
I didn't for so long.
So, Tracy, what else is different about life these days?
Well, in addition to my beautiful house that I mentioned, I also have met someone that's very special to me. And um, his name is Kevin, and he treats me like royalty. He is the best. He's so kind and considerate, and um, it just always makes me feel important. So that's just been a huge change for me. It's been a little bit to get used to, somebody being nice to me and giving me positive attention. So yeah, I'm really thankful to have met him, and it just kind of puts a cherry on the top. So
Hmm.
it's been really good.
Absolutely. Instead of a happy ending, it's like a happy beginning.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Mm,
And you just helped me break through that cycle.
yeah.
And I couldn't thank you enough. Can't thank you enough.
Well, it was amazing for me to be witness and be your partner and your teammate, and watching you make massive changes for yourself. And at the end of the day, I may have been there poking you and pissing you off from time to time,
Mhm.
but you did it.
No.
You did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I like how you
Yeah.
said teammate, because that's exactly how I felt. I
Hmm.
always felt like I was talking to my best friend, and someone that won't let me get away with, saying, I can't do that.
Hmm.
You were always there to say, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And you're worth it. And that just meant the world to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I always feel like I'm talking to my best friend when I'm talking to you. You're just
Good.
so easy to talk to. So, yeah, love it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it was just fun to access the parts of you that had been sleeping.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you feel like because we've talked about the identity thing. Do you think you've been finding yourself for the first time or again?
I think I have been finding myself for the first time.
Mm.
I really do. Um, yes and no. There are certain things I do know were inside me. Like I may have told you this and I may not have, but before I even got married, so that would have been as a teenager, I do remember having this happy-go-lucky way about me, and I like to be silly sometimes. And I remember my grandpa being like that. And he was just so fun to be around because he didn't, he wasn't afraid to be silly about things and he was always happy. And I feel like that was me. And then little by little, that was shoved in the back, in the back, in the back. And I was made to feel foolish for being like that. Or, it's time to grow up now. You're not a child anymore. So stop acting like that. And once I got to this new life, I'll call it, and confident in myself and happy in my skin, I started thinking, why should I not be happy? Why should I not be happy all the time? And I just feel like my mindset that way has changed a lot too. I've brought that person back, but at the same time, I'm a different, more confident person. I never had the self-confidence before, and now I have that too. So a little bit of both.
That's cool. A lot of lessons and things that you've been able to access again, yeah, and then renew some of the things, but then step into the person you want to be. So, what do you think are the biggest changes between the way I used to carry myself and the life I used to live to now? Like what like in your daily routine and how you socialize, like what are the big changes? What are the biggest differences?
Um, One thing I've been working on a lot is to be more authentic, meaning I don't want to do things because I think other people want me to do them. Or I might sound dumb if I don't say something a certain way. And now more and more lately, I've been just feeling more confident to say what I really mean, and this is what I think, take it or leave it kind of thing. That's taken
Yep.
me a long time. I really had to work at that, being authentic. That was something that I always wanted to do because I felt like I always was trying to impress someone, or somebody thought I should think a certain way, so I would go along with it.
Hmm.
So I think I've made huge strides that way.
Hmm.
And if I make a mistake, you've taught me, if you make a mistake, that means you're human, and just embrace it and just say, yep, I screwed up. I did something dumb, but I'm moving on. So that was one thing that has always stuck in my head from you. I remember the story you told me about, you've told me a couple stories, but a couple of them where you're like, oh man, did I just do that? Yep, I did. And you moved on. And before I would have taken that and been so embarrassed. I would have thought about it for days or weeks about, how I did. Oh, they must have thought I was so dumb, and don't do that anymore. Like, move on. I'm sure they've moved on too. So,
Yeah.
I just I don't think as much about that anymore. And so little things like that, I feel I have changed, which I just feel comes from having a little bit of that, more of that self-confidence
Yeah,
and
for
being
sure.
okay who I am.
Oh, I love that. Yes,
Mhm.
being okay with who you are, owning it.
Yes. Yes, owning it. Yeah.
Owning it. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that I've told you a couple stories to make you feel better. It was the drive-through, wasn't it? I took the whole family through the
Yes.
drive-through and
Yeah.
I completely missed the speaker box to order the food and I got all the way to the window and there was a whole line of cars behind me and I was like, I forgot to order.
Here I am.
I did that.
Yeah.
It was me. Sorry, everybody. And the
Yeah,
minute I drove away, nobody cared anymore. So,
right. I
yeah.
know, right? Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah.
you're laughing at yourself, right? Like, let's talk
Mhm.
about that silly stuff that your grandpa
Yeah,
taught you all those many years ago. Like, there,
yeah.
in some ways, don't grow up, right? Don't take yourself so seriously. It's a
I know.
powerful thing.
Yes, it really is. It's
Yeah.
liberating,
It's
you know?
liberating.
I just like that phrase because it really does feel that way.
Hmm. Is that how
So,
it feels now in this life with the house that has the sounds and sights? And do you feel
mhm.
liberated?
I do. I just feel like such a weight is lifted off of me, and I feel like I'm meant to be here, and I'm just enjoying it every minute of it. So,
Wow. Do you
mm,
surprise yourself sometimes looking around being like, I did this?
mm. Yeah, sometimes, yes, I do. And I was just doing a little bit of landscaping this week, and I'm like, look at how beautiful this is. So, I really try to appreciate the things instead of just taking them for granted too.
Hmm.
So, look around and think, this is awesome. And here I am. I did
And
this.
here I am. You did it. Yes. I love
Yeah.
that. And here I am. I did this.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That's a good thing to own too. Look
Hmm.
what I'm capable of, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I felt that a lot, especially talking to you. Every time I finished talking with you, I always felt like, okay, here we go. I'm ready to take on the day and the world. It
You
was just
did.
so awesome.
You
Yeah.
were ready to go. Well,
Hmm.
there's something to be said about feeding off of each other's energies. And I think this is why we made a good team and you were able to
Hmm.
feel that motivation and can keep it going to make beautiful, impactful changes for yourself. You are a walking example of what life-changing looks like in a
Yeah.
really good way.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're here in this life that you live every day and you have your beautiful flowers outside. Go back to the Tracy who felt like something has to change back before you asked for a divorce, before you made any changes, right before you made changes. Can you go back and sit with her? What would you say to her? Not advice per se, but like what kind of message would you deliver?
Oh, I think what I would say is don't shortchange yourself. You are so worth a happy life. Don't settle for this because you're worth so much more than that. And you have a lot of life left to live. So don't give up on being happy. Don't give up on yourself.
Hmm,
Hmm.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you think that Tracy would have listened?
Mm, probably not, but maybe a little
Maybe.
bit in the back
Yeah.
of her head.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was in a pretty rough place back there.
Maybe you would have had to grab her hand and be like, let's go.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you did.
That's true. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Wow.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. There's going to be somebody listening, or many somebodies listening, who are in your shoes now, or want to be in your shoes, or are in that place where they're fearful of
Hmm.
the relationship they're in, or scared to walk away or make a change, and it's overwhelming. What would be some of your advice now that you've really taken yourself through this life-changing journey?
Mm. Yeah. Well, not to be cheesy, but I would say hire Ashley.
Start
If
with
you
that.
feel like you cannot get over the hump and you just need a kick in the butt, she's your girl.
Thank
But
you.
otherwise, other than that, kind of like what I was saying to my younger self, you are worth it. You are worth taking care of yourself and doing something that is good for you. If it's safe for you to do so, do it. Don't wait. Time is going by and you're taking away from your joyful years ahead by waiting. So just do it. You can do it. If I can do it, You can do it.
I love that. Yeah, even if it's hard or challenging,
Yeah.
bit by bit.
hmm One
Yeah.
step at a time. Just take that first step. That's all it really took for me was that step of sitting down and saying, I can't do this anymore. And then, like you said, it went, it just kind of flew after that.
Yeah.
Just take that step.
hmm
hmm
That's all good advice, but that take one first step. Take that,
Yes.
just start.
Yep. Just start
It's
because you're worth
huge. You're proof of that, and you're worth it. That's beautiful. That's an absolutely wonderful thing to say.
it.
Do you
Yes.
hear that, listening? You are worth it.
Yes.
This has been amazing, and I know you and I especially could talk forever, and I could ask you
hmm
all the questions. There's so many stories built into your story, but
Yes.
what we are able to take away today from what you've shared is powerful. And I really appreciate you being honest and open and saying nice things about me and
That's not hard to do, Ashley.
oh,
I
thank you.
appreciate you so much.
Well, I
Yes.
appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story. I'm so proud of you, Tracey, honestly. And you know I tell you all the time, but it's just
Mhm.
it's magic watching what you've done for yourself. And I hope somebody listening today feels lots of warm and fuzzies and some motivation
Yep.
and knows that they're as powerful as you are.
Yep. You can do it.
You can do it. All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for doing this. Now go
Yeah,
continue being a badass.
I will. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Tracey. She is one of a special group of people, clients I've had the privilege to work with, and I'm grateful that she was able to share her story. And I know some of the subject matter was tender, and if this hit really home for you, you're not alone. There is always somebody out there for you. And if you want any help at all, I'm here. And I'm sure you have family members or friends that would be willing to show up for you as well. Your needs matter because you matter. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Needy and Normal podcast. If you liked this episode, share it generously. I would so appreciate it if you would take a quick moment to leave me a review and click that subscribe button so you won't miss an episode. For information about coaching together, visit ablifecoaching.com.